So how bad are the White Sox really? That's what we're gonna look at in today's video.
Like, how bad are the White Sox, and does it bother you?
Through. It kicks off Harrison.
Or are you out?
White Sox are on pace to lose 123 games this season.
Round to third, off the glove of Berger. Here comes Ortega.
That's more than the infamous 1962 Mets.
Baseball fan. Oh, there goes a screaming liner into left field.
Who went 40, 120, and 1.
We figured they would be bad.
So I wanted a deep dive into the box scores, the analytics, and the stats to see how bad are the White Sox really.
A little bit quicker. I don't know. Grab on to second base, and that one is booted by...
Are we witnessing the worst team in modern baseball history unfold right before our eyes? It's a stark contrast from the White Sox recent success. In 2021, they finished first in the AL Central after winning 93 games and losing in the ALDS. Now, they hold a dismal 31-107 record, already the worst in franchise history, by the way. We're sitting here on September 2nd with 24 games to go. The question on everyone's mind, how bad are the 2024 Chicago White Sox really? To answer this, we'll explore historical comparisons, dive into some statistical analysis, and examine management decisions that led to this point. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear picture of where the 2024 White Sox stand in baseball's pantheon of futility. Is this truly the worst team we've seen in the modern era? Stick around to the end to see how the White Sox got to this point, and also comment down below about the worst season you ever had to endure as a baseball fan and which team it was for. Let's go. As we journey through baseball's bottom dwellers, a shocking revelation emerges. The 2024 White Sox aren't just challenging modern era records, they're threatening to surpass the ineptitude of a team from the 19th century. How could a squad with access to advanced analytics and state-of-the-art training facilities truly perform worse than a team from the horse and buggy era? To answer this question, let's take a look at some of the worst teams in MLB history. The 1962 New York Mets have long been the benchmark for modern era futility, losing a staggering 120 games in their inaugural season. But even they pale in comparison to the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who set an all-time record with 134 losses in a single season. Some people want to toss last year's Oakland Athletics into this conversation, but hey, they finished 50-112, which could be 10 games better than this current Sox team. Now, let's take a look where the 2024 Chicago White Sox stand historically. With a current record of 31-107, they're on pace to lose 123 games this season. That's a winning percentage of .225 and is truly abysmal, rivaling some of the worst in MLB history. To put this in perspective, it's eerily close to the 1916 Philadelphia Athletics, who finished with a .235 winning percentage. In over a century of baseball, only a handful of teams have performed this poorly over a full season, and those all predate 1900, with teams that we all know and love, like the Spiders, the Alleghenies, and the Quakers. Now, what about the teams who have played 162 games in a season? The 2003 Detroit Tigers take this one. And guess what? The Sox are pacing less than the 43 wins and .265 winning percentage that made the Tigers the worst team to play 162 games. But here's the good news. The 03 Tigers had a negative .337 run differential, and the Sox on pace for negative .316. Perhaps the most glaring indicator of the White Sox struggles is their 21-game losing streak, which tied the 1988 Baltimore Orioles, who did so to start the season, for the longest AL losing streak in MLB history. That trailed only the 1961 Philadelphia Phillies, who had a streak of 23 games. This isn't just a bad team having a rough patch. It's a level of consistent failure rarely seen in professional sports. And to make matters worse, this 21-game skid is just one of 3 separate losing streaks of 10 games or more that the White Sox have endured in the 2024 season, becoming the first team since the 1965 Mets to have 3 10-game losing streaks in a single season. And guess what? That third losing streak is happening right now. The frequency and length of these losing streaks paint a picture of a team that's not just bad, but historically up there with the worst of all time. It's one thing to have a poor season, every team goes through it. It's another to string together multiple stretches of double-digit losses. This level of sustained failure puts the 2024 White Sox in a class of their own, even among the worst teams in baseball history. When we look at the bigger picture, the White Sox performance becomes even more alarming. They've only won 6 series all season long and have been swept an astonishing 22 times. That's the most sweeps suffered by any team in MLB this year, and it's not even close. The White Sox win-loss record does tell a grim story, but it only scratches the surface of their struggles. Let's look deeper into the box score and dive into the numbers that reveal just how badly they're being outplayed. One key indicator that exposes the true extent of the White Sox struggles is their run differential. Chicago's run differential stands at an astounding -291, meaning they've been outscored by their opponents by 291 runs over the course of the season. To put this in perspective, if the White Sox maintain this pace, Fangraphs project they would finish with -316, putting them in the stratosphere of the 1932 Boston Red Sox mark of -349. So what does this mean in practical terms? The White Sox are being outscored by an average of 2.1 runs per game. The offensive struggles of the 2024 White Sox are particularly alarming. They're averaging a mere 3.04 runs per game, which is not only the lowest in MLB this season, but also significantly lower than the league average of 4.44 runs per game and 0.76 runs less than the next lowest team, the Miami Marlins. This anemic offense has led to 15 shutouts, meaning approximately 10% of their games they've failed to score a single run. When we examine their batting statistics, the picture becomes even bleaker. The White Sox are hitting a collective .219, ranking last in the league in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and OPS+. Perhaps the most telling statistic is their projected run total for the entire season. At their current pace, the White Sox are on track to score fewer than 500 runs for the year. To put this in context, it's extremely rare for a team in the modern era to fall below this threshold. The last team to do so in a full season was the 1972 Texas Rangers, who scored 461 runs in 154 games. However, it's also worth noting that the 1972 season was a notoriously low-scoring year across the league due to factors like a higher mound and expanded strike zone. You might be asking, what about the pitching? They are second to last in most major categories, behind only the Rockies, who, I'm just finding out, have 802 runs scored against them compared to the White Sox 711 in 138 games. For a team in 2024 with all the advancements in training, nutrition, analytics to potentially join this dubious company is truly remarkable. It's a systemic failure at every level of the organization, from player development to in-game strategy. Despite these grim statistics, there is a curious silver lining, I guess. The gap between the White Sox expected slugging percentage of .373 and actual slugging percentages of .339 suggest they're underperforming even their own poor underlying metrics. So, in other words, they've been unlucky on top of being historically bad. So how did the White Sox, just a few years removed from playoff contention, plummet to historic lows? The trail of poor decisions and missed opportunities stretches back a few years, culminating in a perfect storm that's threatening to rewrite the record books. The White Sox downfall can be traced back to a series of controversial management decisions, starting with the hiring of Tony La Russa in 2020. La Russa, a Hall of Fame manager who had been out of the dugout for nearly a decade, was brought in despite concerns about his ability to adapt to the modern game. This move set the stage for a cascade of missteps that would ultimately lead to the team's current predicament. Following La Russa's departure, the White Sox doubled down on their questionable decision-making by retaining Pedro Grifol as a manager after a disastrous 2023 season. Grifol's tenure was marked by a staggering 89 and 190 record, yet the front office chose to keep him at the helm until August 8th of this year. This came shortly after ex-White Sox reliever Kenyon Middleton ripped on the club's no-rules culture. Kenyon, who was dealt to the New York Yankees just before the trade deadline, said, quote, "We came in with no rules. I don't know how you police the culture if there are no rules or guidelines to follow because everyone is doing their own thing. Like, how do you say anything about it because there are no rules? You have rookies sleeping in the bullpen during the games. You have guys missing meetings. You have guys missing PFPs, pitcher fielding practices, and there are no consequences for any of this stuff." Injuries have also played a significant role in the White Sox struggles. Key players like Yohan Moncada and Luis Robert Jr. have missed substantial time, leaving gaping holes in the lineup and on the field. These absences have forced the team to rely on inexperienced replacements, furthering these performance issues. However, the White Sox problems run deeper than just injuries and managerial missteps. Owner Jerry Reinsdorf has faced increasing criticism for his apparent lack of investment in player development and analytics. Take a look at this image I found on Reddit. That it is a couple years old, but I think it proves the point. In an era where successful franchises are pouring resources into these areas of data analytics and engineers, the White Sox have fallen behind. This failure to adapt to modern baseball practices has left the team ill-equipped to compete in today's game. And yes, the number of analysts to wins does not equally correlate, but to be at the bottom of the league in this is not where you want to be. The impact of these issues on team morale and fan engagement have been devastating. Players have expressed frustration over the team's performance and management decisions, leading to a joyless atmosphere in the clubhouse. This toxic environment has spilled over into the stands, with attendance numbers plummeting to new lows. In 2024, the White Sox have drawn only 1.2 million fans, ranking 13th out of 15 teams in the American League. Despite the grim situation, there are still signs of resilience among the players. Andrew Benintendi, for instance, has emphasized the importance of staying competitive in games, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The current state of the White Sox can be seen as a perfect storm of injuries, poor management decisions, and a lack of direction. The combination of outdated practices, questionable hirings, and a failure to invest in the future has left the team in a historically precarious situation. And the 2024 White Sox have carved out a place in baseball infamy. Their record-breaking losses, abysmal run differential, and anemic offense put them in contention for the worst team in modern MLB history. While the White Sox haven't quite reached the depths of the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who had a 130 win percentage and a negative 723 run differential, they're challenging modern era records for futility. Their projected 123 losses would surpass the infamous 1962 Mets and 2003 Detroit Tigers, cementing their place among baseball's worst teams. And if you think Jerry Reinsdorf is a bad owner, just check out this video I did on Oakland Athletics owner John Fisher and how he's the worst MLB owner in history. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.